Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to TheSoundTV. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today I got a video for you on the KZ DUONIC. But before we get started, I gotta let you know KZ did send these out for review, but as always, I'm gonna keep it 100. All right, I'm gonna let you know how I feel, my experiences with music and gaming. All right. Now, what I found really interesting is that this is the first time I've ever listened to an IEM with a planar driver. And what they actually have here is what they're calling their Triflux planar magnetic driver. It's 8mm. And then you also have a dynamic driver. Now, this is supposed to be an all-around upgrade to the KZ Caster Pro. All right, just across the line, they're selling this as something that you could potentially upgrade and really find somewhat of a difference in the audio experience. Now, you also have switches. This is the bass enhanced version, the one that I currently have. And you have these switches where you're able to kind of EQ the IEM somewhat and get, you know, a little adjustment in how you hear things between the bass, the mids, and the highs. So something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. Now, the first thing I did was go on Apple Music and listen to Tem's new album, Love Is a Kingdom. Now, she's a female artist that's very versatile. She has a very soothing voice, alto voice that's rich and airy. And I really enjoyed the listening experience as what do these IEMs present that I haven't heard before. And really, I just felt like they were just very clear, very clean. And I've always heard of planars kind of delivering somewhat of a more of a upscaled type of sound, especially when it comes to the accuracy and the clarity, all right, of IEMs. And that's going to take us into the sound signature. So the sound signature for me sounds like a V shape with a little bit of energy, all right? But this is the bass enhanced, like I mentioned, and there's something about the way the IEM produces sound that it almost feels, and this is going to sound really silly. I can't even imagine I'm wanting to say this on camera, but it's the only way I can think about it. So imagine the mids and, you know, the highs, kind of like the treble, I should say. And you got the bass that's kind of like hugging those regions, right? Without bleeding into those regions, right? So I said highs, but I meant to really say to give you more of a separation. So mids and the treble, and you just kind of have this sense of like you know, like your big bro, like that's the bass. Now the bass, I would say, is not like the KZ Saga, which I reviewed on this channel. If you haven't watched that, go watch it. All right, so I would say like the bass is a little bit below that, but it's presented here really nice. All right, and you do have those switches if you want a little bit more. It's not that crazy bloated, you know, sloppy bass that sometimes you get with IEMs. And I've discussed this on the channel where sometimes things kind of bleed into those other regions and it impacts. Nah, it doesn't happen here, and that's a really good thing. And you can definitely hear the bass just kind of hugging these regions in this way that still allows the mids and the treble to come forward just right, not too much. Now the switches, if you know, adjust, because everybody hears differently, it can get a little spicy, right? It could get a little sharp, a little up there, but I wouldn't say that is fatiguing. And I'm somebody who's very sensitive to those higher regions. So I think here, you know, you're getting a nice little bass that's responsive, it's fast, it's thumpy. And again, kind of reminds me of the KZ Saga, but just like a little lower tier, not in a bad way. All right. If you have the KZ Saga and you like that bass I think is a little bit better than here, but this is still acceptable in my opinion. Now, I kind of want to put these together just because I don't want to like bore you with all this information. The treble and the mids, you know, it feels airy, it feels clear, the accuracy, the imaging. I was super surprised by the imaging, and I think it could potentially have to do with the hybrid play they got going on here. This is a fun IEM, all right? So for music, I would say for male vocals is clear. For female vocals, it's just right. It's not, piercing. I did say it can get a little spicy, but maybe more so with like instrumentals and certain things, but not too much. All right, there is control there, and I think you got to give it to KZ doing that at $18 to $20 is where this IEM is priced at. Obviously, as we've discussed, I've kind of brought it up a lot with these IEM reviews, is that prices fluctuate depending on your region or where you're at. So for $20, guys, I'm not trying to sell you just another IEM. I think this definitely has its own place as something that is trying to accomplish at a great price. You got a planar driver, you got a dynamic driver, and you're getting something that you typically see at maybe like $50 or something a little bit more expensive. And I think KZ has this thing with wanting to experiment, and they're just enjoying this process of giving fans, especially the budget fans, right? People who don't want to spend too much money and kind of just want to have an entry point to the type of things that you normally will find at higher prices. Now let's talk about built-in comfort. So these are actually pretty comfortable. They do have somewhat of a bigger nozzle, I would say, but nothing crazy, surprisingly. And I think because they're pretty light, and the way the mold is, or it's not a mold, but you know what I mean, like the actual shape of the IEM kind of make it very comfortable in the ear. And I didn't have any problems. Normally when I see IEMs big like this, I get very intimidated because sometimes, especially after wearing them for a long time, they can feel very comfortable. But here they actually did pretty good. The hook is good, nothing crazy. It's a little lighter, which is good. Sometimes they could be a little bit too tight and bother people, but these are actually pretty good. They said Duonic. On the outside you got the metal, got a little bit of the clear part here where you can see the drivers, but overall pretty decent. And then the cable kind of has like this clear look to it. I like it. It's a little different than what I've seen from KZ, but at least for me this is kind of like new in the sense that I haven't really seen these. But yeah, no, I mean it feels good. Nice little length like the usual, but overall nice little build, man. I like metal feeling type of IEMs. That's always my favorite type of build. So all in all, when it comes to music, I like the separation, female male vocals. They are clear, they're very accurate. The bass, nice little thump, kind of nice little fast roll. It doesn't kind of sting and sit there too much. Just right, hit you where you need it. Music wise, I enjoyed listening to these. Now let's talk about gaming. Gaming for me was really interesting because for some very good reason, the moment I jumped into the finals, I could just like kind of feel like the room was open, and just the directional cues were very clear and transparent. Like I could really tell where people were coming from, like the proximity, like the depth, like how close and how far they were. All right, the presentation of that was very in my ears, in my face. And then I could also hear people above, maybe on the same plane as me, or even below, which sometimes you can hear that in other IEMs, and you can live and with that, you can adjust to that as you play that game that you play. You kind of understand, okay, that's what that sound sounds like on these IEMs. But here I jumped into again, I was like, oh snap, hold up, like I didn't even have to think. Like the IEM just kind of let me know, hey, this is what this is, and very easy to adjust. So if you are looking for a gaming IEM, these are actually pretty good. Like I can't even lie, like this is a good recommendation. And again, that bass that we always talk about it, Some IEMs don't do good, where you have that bass and it's just kicking into those mids and that treble and it's just impacting, right? That's where the things that we need in game to hear, those gun cues, right? Those footsteps, those doors, people moving. We got to hear that. Here kind of reminds me again, going back to the KZ saga, where the bass is done really well, right? We're not getting this fight for what's more important. No, we can hear what you need to hear. So I definitely recommend these for gaming, guys. So overall, good IEM. KZ is just out here swinging, just trying all different things. And so far, we've had 3 reviews. And listen, I don't want to sound like a damn robot, like I'm being paid to say this stuff. I'm telling you how I feel. I've tried different IEMs at different price points. The fact that a lot of these IEMs have been very budget friendly, get you right into the door without breaking the bank. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And I'm not saying that $20 is not a lot of money. All right. $20 can get you a meal, can get you some gas, can get you a lot of things. All right. But with the economy and the fact that some of us, can't be dropping $100, $200, $300, $400, $500 on IEMs, this is a great way to kind of find that target, find that thing you want. So KZ, again, I've given you lots of applauses. I got to give it to you, man. I got to give it to you. So if you like this review, please like and subscribe. Hopefully I didn't yap too much. If you enjoyed the content, please support the boy. I'll have the links down in the description. I get no kickbacks from this. This is all KZ, but I wanted to present this to you in a nice formal way, the way we do business here on the channel. All right. So thank you so much. I love you, and I'll see you soon. Peace.